Hey, Fly Cap.
Hey,
Long
how
time
we
no
doing?
see.
I'm just checking with all of the Twitch people because I did think we might have got a raid coming in around 4 o'clock. Yeah, it was. So
Yeah,
Christian Ninja came in with the raid. 25 people joining us now on Twitch
yeah.
because we're going to be talking with Ukulele and talking about Taco Network.
Awesome. Love that. Yeah, I saw the number spike a little bit, and I was like, we just got raided. So
Yep.
that was really cool. I was telling them we actually um, when we shifted, well, really, when we went to Lausanne, we really saw kind of a paradigm model open up for us with the church digital. We talked about how we shifted to digital missionaries as opposed to physical churches doing ministry, and so really the target is digital missionary work through the church digital, and then really the missionary at that point are people like Leighton and Christian Ninja and the Twitch streamers and the gamers and the typical model that we were working with here in America was the person who wants to do digital ministry but is not affirmed in doing it. They need validation, they need encouragement, they need not so much coaching as much as just reassurance and community, emotional support, almost more than anything towards that. Like that's the U.S. model. And so a lot of the people that you saw on the call earlier just a minute ago are that. They are already doing this at some level. Like we've got, nationally published authors that are doing things and are starting to wrestle with how to, take some of these next steps. The the model is different globally. The model globally, yeah, there's some exceptions, but the majority of the people that are doing this globally are not digital savvy people that are interested in doing ministry. It's more of missionaries that are doing a lot of physical, but are very interested in seeing the idea scale and multiply digitally and seeing their reach extended beyond the norms. And so like when we're talking with digital savvy people in the American cohort that you and I just saw, like when we look at the global potential, it's much different. Now, and so that's the opportunity. Flat cap, as I'm doing a soft shoe here, waiting for ukulele to come in. Man, let's pivot. Let's transition to you a little bit. Talk about your ministry, what you're about, what's your story, and why you're obsessed with flat caps.
Uh, the story of flat caps is really kind of fun, but my mom took me to funerals as a kid. Like if somebody died, we went to funerals. And so I think the first funeral I remember was an uncle, a great uncle of mine who was in the casket, who was a painter wearing a polka dotted painter's cap. And I just was fascinated by hats ever since. And then it was just trying to find the style that I felt, you know, personified who I was. So I know that's a really weird story, but when you're surrounded by a bunch of hats, it kind of takes on its own persona. And as I moved into digital space, it was, well, this speaks to who I am because I've already had this in churches where I worked, where during the week I wore a hat and everyone in the community knew who I was. And if I went to the grocery store on Sunday after preaching and didn't have it on, they didn't recognize me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of like everyone thinks that Superman with the glasses doesn't work, that everyone knows who it is. Well, let me tell you, a hat can totally change whether people see you or don't see you. So uh, I gradually kept moving into digital space because every church that I was at, there was a group of people that we weren't reaching. And so I needed a website at one of the first churches I was working at out of seminary because we needed to connect with people with Katrina relief. And so it was like, oh, I've got to figure this out. So I taught myself HTML coding. I'm not good, but I could make the website work. And then I went to a college town and tried to email the students to get together for a meal. And they said, oh, we didn't check our email, Facebook us. And I'm like, what are you talking about, Facebook you? So I always was on the cusp, not because I was innovative and trying to do innovative things, but on the cusp of things because I had to reach the people that I was connecting with in order to do that. So I made the shift into Twitch in the middle of COVID. My kids had been talking about it for years. I had a pastor that was across town, Pastor Brock VR, who'd been doing VR ministry and hanging out in Twitch. And I found myself, after resigning from the church I was at, longer story, sitting at home on the couch, and I decided to watch him. And I was like, I don't know if this is a thing for me. And along the way, Twitch does this awesome thing, which if you're on Twitch, you just experienced it, coming in with a raid. I love that. Like, I would really love to figure out how to do this in person. We get done with our church service. We all pile in our cars and we drive to the next church and we all pile into the sanctuary and we worship and praise. And we do that for 10, 15 minutes. And then we go home, some of us, and some of us hang out and go to the next church and the next church. And Ukulele for Worship was one of those people that got raided. And I'm like, okay, this isn't what I was expecting. My kids all talked about watching video games. And here I am in the 1% niche on Twitch, not doing video games. And I'm like, okay, this is where I need to be. And as I was hanging out, I started, and you didn't have tags at the time to point out Christians, and you didn't have tags to identify people as pastors. So I had lots of time on my hand, and I just started zooming around Twitch, hanging out all day, trying to find Christians who were in the space, because when I ran into them, a lot of them didn't have support from their church. They were lost and lonely, feeling called by God, moved by the Spirit to go and do this thing, and they were alone. And so I just started hanging out with them, networking them together, and being in their communities. And so, along the way, it's been great having Ukulele around, encouraging me, because without watching her do it, another pastor doing it, maybe that's his niche. But then seeing Ukulele do it, meeting Christian Ninja because of her raiding over to Christian Ninja, going from there and finding other people and expanding Jate Live. There's a bunch of people doing different things, but have the same heart to reach people who are lost and lonely, far away from God, or Christians who are trying to be in the space, reaching out to the lost and lonely, and just trying to encourage one another. So I know I try to keep it short, but I'm a pastor and I talk a long time.
Yeah. Awesome.